Thanks for stopping by. This is a 2002 Honda CR250 case that belongs to my son, and you can see here it had a little blowout at the top of the case right there, cracked, and I got to Healy arc it up, put a cap over it. He tried to do a little temporary repair to it with a little disc. Here I'm just getting the cases apart. This is the shaft that pretty much stays stationary in the cases, between the two cases, and the shifting forks just slide back and forth on them. Here I'm just measuring where I can machine a chunk of brass to stick in the hole while I weld it up. The three bearings that you see in the case will all be replaced, and I decided we'd leave them in place during the welding process just to kind of help keep everything true. Here I just got a little 1/8 little carbide burr in my Fordham tool. Just kind of grinding and prepping the surfaces for welding. Just measuring up to make a little aluminum disc that'll just set right on top there. And then when I weld it, it'll weld right into the case. Here I'm measuring the bore where the seal goes. It's the seal that seals to the shaft that the shifting lever goes to. Anyway, I wanted a little brass slug to kind of keep the hole nice and straight and keep from warping during welding. I already took a file and kind of knocked the edges off, and I wanted it just to kind of be just a snug little tap and fit. It's pretty much ready to weld up right now. I tried to make up a little lens setup to catch the welding, but I ended up using a dark lens out of a welding helmet, and it was too dark. It wouldn't pick up much other than just arcing. The main area that I had to build up seemed to weld up really nice. It seemed like I was getting a little porosity and little contaminants and stuff in the rest of the housing when I was trying to flow it in, but all in all, I think it came out fine. And you know, here I'm getting ready to just take the Fordham tool and kind of start blending it in a little bit. But being that it's in a position that you never really will see, I didn't get too excited about it. There was another issue on the motor. When my son took it apart, somebody used the wrong puller to try to pull the flywheel off. You can see right here the threads got boogered up pretty good, and he asked if I could do anything about it, and that was 28 millimeter, and I decided that I was going to machine it 1/8" 16, and what I end up using is, anybody recognize this? This is just a lug nut off of a semi or a trailer, and right here I've already cut it off in two, and I've already got the end of it machined flat. It's already got the 1/8" 16 thread with 3/4 16 thread on the inside. This is just a snap-on 3/4 16 pusher bolt for your standard pullers. And now I'll just cut the threads 1/8" 16 on the flywheel, and should all be good. Here's the threading tool that I ground up. You can see quite a bit of grinding, but anyway, it doesn't need a whole lot of tip for a 16 thread, and I'll be basically running everything backwards. The cutter's mounted upside down, and the flywheel will be running in reverse rotation. That way I can run the cutter all the way in. It's only about 3/8 of an inch depth of hole, so it's kind of like a blind hole that I'm dealing with. So it'll just run all the way up inside. That'll be my starting point, and then it will be threading from the inside, pulling it out. Here I'm just making sure the threading tip is square to the flywheel when I'm cutting the threads. Here's my setup for threading it. I got the dial indicator set up on the left corner of the carriage, and here I'm retracting the bit, first pass, and then I just screw in the cross slide. I come back to my 0 point on the carriage, and then I just bring the cross slide back. Each time I bring the cross slide back, I'm just adding about 10 thousandths. Since it's such a small thread, you know, I'm not using the compound at all. I'm just using the cross slide on it, and a little note there, just kind of keeping track of, you know, every time I add a little bit to it. The depth of cut decreased the deeper I got into the threads. I think about right here I was doing about 5,000 depth of cut. Ended up getting a pretty nice snug fit. You know, I didn't want to have too much play in it. You know, but it screwed in just fine by hand. Got a little shim stock for protecting the threads as I clamp it up, and here I'm just going to cut the 6 flats. Now that'll allow you to put either a socket or a wrench on it if need be. It probably wouldn't be needed, but if it's kind of snug going into the flywheel, it gives you something to tighten it up with. Here you can see the welded area right where the little arrows are pointing. That's the area that I've built up. My son already had the bike together, and I just thought I would do a quick little video of actually how the tool worked and how to remove the flywheel. Just taking the cover off, you know, and in here I'll just remove the flywheel nut. Now here's the tool that I made, and it just screws right into the flywheel. And I decided to use a 1 1/8" 16 bolt that's flat on the end. I wanted it to push flat against the crankshaft rather than having to pull or, you know, pushing, wanting to flare it out. I thought it would be a little better just having a nice flat square shoulder to push against. Being that it's mounted on a taper, it doesn't take much to pop it loose, as you can see. Please subscribe and leave a comment, good or bad. Thanks for watching.